guys, I wanted to make a video going through my 1969 Buick Special Deluxe with a Chevy 250 inline 6 that I turboed. So this is actually the original engine and the original head. So I've had the block bored 40 over and had 40 over Ross Racing forged pistons put in. Those are using stock connecting rods with some ARP rod bolts, and then the crank and crank bolts are stock size bearings and everything. So that's the internals. It's all being fed by a Garrett GTX 3582R Gen 2 turbo. So when I first got this several years ago, it was kind of a revelation because most turbos have the scroll going the other way, which would have put it too far down and started to hit the frame at the bottom. But Garrett started offering these reverse scroll turbos that I can bolt directly to this SPA turbo manifold with a T4 outlet. So there's a T4 to V-band adapter that pushes it out just a hair, which is nice because it also scoots it away from the intake manifold. And then that keeps the turbo basically in the perfect position to sit normally in the engine bay, but away from the manifolds so that I can run the exhaust pipe down the original way. That is being fed in by just some K&N air filter into pipe that I have sitting in the corner here that goes up and around through some, if I remember, this is 3-inch aluminum piping into an intercooler. So this intercooler is bolted directly to the rad support, and actually so the hood latch used to go right here directly where the intercooler originally was, and actually to make an electronic hood latch that I have here, and that's just push button operated, that has a switch on the inside of the car, and that operates this is a solenoid from like a 07 Cummins or something like that, that pulls and pops the hood open with this spring, so that'll pop it up. But this intercooler is probably huge for what I'm using it for. I never see intakes above ambient when I'm boosting, and that goes in through a Holley EFI, if I remember correctly, cast aluminum turbo hat, because I'm running it over this valve cover. I need it to be low profile, and you can see it's touching just a hair anyway, but I need it to be low profile enough to fit under the hood but over the valve cover. So this goes into a Holley Super Sniper EFI 650, and this is fed through these lines, which are 6AN lines, through my Phytech fuel pressure regulator, and there's this blue wire that follows the fuel feed and fuel return that goes back up under the car into a Phytech Go EFI fuel tank, and I believe that has a 340 liter per hour pump. The reason why I went with that over the Holley replacement fuel tank is because the Holley has a lower flow rate for its fuel pump that comes in that tank, and two, the Holley tank also doesn't have 6AM fittings directly on the sending unit or the pump insert. It has, I think, 5/16 lines. So basically, because I already had most everything set up for 6AN, it just made a lot more sense to go that way. So that blows through this Holley Super Sniper into a Offenhauser 4-barrel manifold. I've had this thing for forever. Interesting note is that by default, when you have this set up, it's actually rotated 90 degrees, so the linkage goes this way. I have no idea why that's the case, but Offenhauser offers a part that will rotate this 90 degrees so that this is in line with where your throttle cable comes from, which makes way more sense to me. So that blows through. We already talked about the manifold. The exhaust manifold actually has a, you can see down there, it actually has a teal MVS 44 millimeter wastegate, and I did the whole setup for welding this. So this pipe has a little join right there into that teal MVS wastegate, and then that flows down into a V-band clamp that goes out to the rest of the exhaust. In terms of timing, I actually have a HEI setup from a I believe it's an 86 C10. So they had these engines, these 250 engines, for quite some time, and later models, instead of a points and condenser, they had the HEI setup. So this HEI setup, there's a YouTuber named Turbo Camaro 69 or 69 Turbo Camaro, and he has an awesome setup on how you can replace the HEI module that's inside of these and hook it up to these ignition coil drivers that are part of the Holley EFI setup. And because of that, I had the position signal coming out right here. Then I have this gray wire to actually go into the HEI to trigger the spark. So that means that when I have my laptop in the car, I can use these two connectors. And then that goes into this USB port and to this handheld, so that I can plug it in and then tune all the timing with basically a Excel style spreadsheet, which is fantastic. It has a turbo cam installed, some comp roller rockers, a 194 intake and a 1.7 inch exhaust, if I remember correctly. Tom Lowe from 12 Bolt did this head setup for me. So I also have lump ports installed, ARP head studs, and this valve cover was also from Tom Lowe to fit the larger roller rockers. All of this is connected to a Muncie M20, and that M20 Muncie is column shifted, so it's first, second, third, fourth, and then I have a reverse bar in the floor that I can pull when this is in neutral, so I have a 4-speed on the column. But other than that, this engine has been an absolute blast to drive. It scoots along just fine. It's not particularly loud or noisy or aggressive when you're driving it decently. The boost comes in quick, it comes in hard, and I have been running about 12 or 13 PSI for the 2 summers that I've been running it now, and it doesn't miss a beat. I think I have about 1,000 miles on this engine, or 1,200 miles on this engine so far, and it's been going great. So I've had the RPM capped at 5,000. I believe that this can probably continue to make power into the 5,500 or maybe up to 6,000. Next summer I might try and lift that cap to 5,500 and see how it goes. But other than that, it's been an awesome runner, and thank y'all for watching.